Hi, I'm Sian Benz, and welcome to The Naked Word, a show for the everyday woman where our story is your story. Today on The Naked Word, we're talking about self-care and the consequence of not self-caring. With a lack of self-care ultimately leading to burnout, it's a crippling issue that affects so many women all around the world. With 52% of people reporting during the pandemic that they experienced burnout, the question is, why? Are our lives just too busy? Or is it that we don't know how? Joining me, Natalie, Soraya, and Deanna. Hey girls.
Hey.
I just love having this conversation.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start with your definition of what self-care is for you. Dee.
Well, I really struggled with this for a while. I didn't think that I understood what self-care was because I saw lots of other people self-caring in ways that I just didn't understand and didn't work for me. Candles and baths and bubbles and stuff, not my vibe, at all.
Yeah.
For me, it's really, there's a couple of things. I love reading in bed in the morning. If I can give myself even 5 minutes of just kind of sinking into a book and getting out of my, head and waking up slowly and gently, that's really beautiful for me. That feels like a great start to my day.
Yes.
And the other thing I love doing is moving. So I go rock climbing or a dance or something. And it feels really kind of physically meditative.
You know, the first time I heard you say that, I just about fell off my chair. Because my definition of self-care is the complete opposite.
Yeah,
it is the stopping of doing absolutely everything that I have to do in a day and switching off, getting away from the kids, away from my husband, away from my friends, and just being on my own and doing nothing. What about you, Nat?
So I've always been a huge advocate of self-care.
Yeah.
It's been my driving force probably for 2 decades.
Wow.
So I've always woken up very early and I've always headed straight to the beach or into nature, and I've spent at least an hour or an hour and a half in nature.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it sounds, I just feel more at home there than I do anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it just calms me.
Yes.
And then when I come home, I make sure I eat a really amazing breakfast, something plant-based, really healthy. And then I usually will have my shower, relax in there and just take time.
Yeah.
So I have to get up really early to do that.
Yeah.
And most mums are probably watching right now thinking, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I made the time.
Yeah. But nature's really your thing.
Nature is my thing. Nature is my happy place.
See, that doesn't work for me either.
Yeah.
Soraya, what's your self-care thing?
So I've always struggled with self-care, but my self-care thing for me, through the journey of discovering what self-care was for me, is prayer and meditation.
Right.
And alone time. Silent contemplation. Just having no one around.
Yeah.
And to just sit and reflect and come into my body.
Yeah.
To feel myself and to slow the voices down and really connect.
Yeah.
For me, we'll connect to God. That for me is amazing.
Yeah. You mentioned the voices.
Yeah.
Can relate. Would not recommend. Would not recommend.
The whole time you were talking that, I was thinking that's exactly what movement is for me. So when I go climbing, I'm in my body. I'm not in my head. I'm really focused. It's super mindful and intentional. I have to really concentrate on what I'm doing, and it shuts down the voices, shuts down the rah.
Yeah.
And I think we're so busy, we don't make it a priority, but we don't realize what happens when we don't do it. So, Soraya, you mentioned before, you were talking about the struggle. It's been a struggle for you to figure out your self-care and what that looks like. Tell me about that.
It's still a struggle. I still struggle with it. So when I say prayer and meditation, if I go into the room and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pray, I'm like, okay, I'm not even focusing here. I'm just trying to pray or meditate so I can get through it so I can go and do what I need to do.
Yes.
But if I don't actually take the time to sit still and reflect, I come out of that room and I'm vacuuming angrily. I'm just like, get out of my way. There is a vibe
Stress
around
cleaning,
me that
stress
is just
cleaning.
like, and my daughter will come to me and ask me a question and I will just, in all of my angst, be like, yes, quick, yep, get this done, do that, yes. And I just become bossy. I become really agitated, frustrated, restless.
Yeah.
Are you disconnected?
I'm not disconnected, but I feel really just angsty.
Yeah.
So really like high energy and anxious, which creates such a bad vibe at home.
And you become used to it. Yeah. You become used to being that way. Your family becomes used to you being that way. Who else struggles a little bit to get into that self-care vibe?
Yeah, 100%. But that's why I found the things that give me access to it. You know, like I have tried many, many times to carve out stuff.
So Deanna, what stops you from doing it?
All the things that I want to be doing with my time. You know, like I've got a lot of stuff that I want to be doing, and you know, I also want to be spending time with my family. I want to be doing the work that I do because I love it so much. You know, like there's a lot for me to do, and I want to do it all, and I'm really bad at slowing down.
That is the story of a woman's life.
Yeah.
You end up making everything else the priority over yourself, which is why this conversation needed to happen.
Yeah, it does. And I really think that if we don't apply self-care each and every single day, what we do have is a lot more anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always put everyone else first in my family.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that I do everything first.
Yes.
And then I'm on the bottom of that
The tail
list.
end of everything.
So when everything's done, then I'll do it instead of putting me first.
Yes.
In an unselfish way.
Yes. Absolutely.
And you become a better mum.
You do. You know, there was a time during my life a couple of years ago where I found myself in a situation where I was caring for 2 kids. One was a newborn, a husband in a wheelchair, and a mother with Alzheimer's, all at the same time.
That's a lot.
Paint that picture.
Yeah, too much.
Wow. And I'm really, you know me, so I'm quite diligent. So, you know, I'd be up at the crack of dawn, I'd be in bed at midnight, and I wasn't getting much rest at all. My days were consumed with the needs of other people all day. And I was running on adrenaline, not eating properly, not eating enough, not drinking enough water. I was not considering at all what my self-care practice would be.
That sounds like a lot of my days.
The only thing I was thinking about was, well, their needs. They need me.
Yeah.
They need me. So I need to give them what they need. And it was a conversation with my brother that changed the way that I see this. My brother and I lived together during that time, and I had gotten dressed. We were going to the beach, so I put my bathers on, and I was just walking around the house gathering everything to pack into the bags, and he saw me in my bathers. And I didn't realize, but by that stage, I'd lost a lot of weight from not eating.
Yep.
And he came around the corner, and he took one look at me. And if you ever met my brother, this is exactly the way he speaks. But he looked at me and he went, "Are you on crack?"
Oh my gosh. Oh,
I know.
Sweetheart.
Yeah.
What a shock that must have been.
That was the first time I realized I had let myself get so run down that I looked like a skeleton. I looked like a skeleton. So I made myself an appointment the very next day to go to the doctors and get all my blood work done. And yes, it took effort. I had to arrange the kids and mum, and I had to arrange everything. But I took myself off to the doctors to figure out what was going on. You can imagine what that felt like.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of women that have been in that situation when they put everybody first, especially when you're a brand new mum.
Yeah.
And you've got babies and you can't think of anything else but them. I mean, I never thought of self-care when I was a brand new mum.
No.
And then I got to a point where I had anxiety through winter. And I thought, I haven't had this for a long time. Why? I said, oh, that's because I had a routine in winter. So I went back to the beach and started swimming very early in the morning.
Yes.
And just being in the ocean and cold water therapy actually just made me come home and go, okay, now I can start my day. I've done something for me.
Yes.
And I was a better mum for that.
Yes. And I think it's important to identify as well, you know, there are 2 types of time out that we can take. One of them is self-care. So it's a practice that fills you up and makes you feel full and nurtured and relaxed. And the other one is time that we take where we just check out. So for me, that's the mindless scrolling on social media. That's the consuming Netflix or whatever, watching movies, where I'm not actually doing anything that makes me feel better. I'm just checking out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I think that's something that happens a lot for everybody, you know, and in different ways, because everyone has their own version of that mindless thing. You know, I definitely, for me, it's social media, checking my emails. It's kind of work-related stuff, and I feel a really strong pull towards that when I'm restless. And those are the times when I know I need to go and do something that is more centred and more about me and like you said, fills my cup a little bit, you know, and that could be anything. But often what I'll do is go and just let myself get lost in a book somewhere in a corner quietly for like 15 minutes, you know, and that just... I have to do it, but I have to recognise the restlessness that is that's the trigger sort of key sort of thing for me. It's the thing that makes me go, oh. Indicators. You know, I get restless and then I look for my phone.
Yes. So you get restless.
Yeah.
What do?
Frustration. It's my name. When I'm not self-caring. Frustration. My tone, just my body seizes up. I get tense. And I start to get really angry.
Yeah, show me.
So...
Show me. I want to see it.
Okay, so it'll be like, all right, so yes, you just need to go to the shop, all right? Can you just go to the shop, please? All right? I just need to get the house clean. Shows up like that. And I'm like, by the end of the day, I'm just like, oh my God. But I don't notice it in the moment because it's like I'm so focused on what it is that I need to do until indicators come up, which is like little health hives or something, you know? Something comes up and then I'm like, okay. But I've gotten so much better.
Do you have anyone in your life that lets you know when
See
it's
harm.
happening?
Oh yeah, I'm great with that.
But
I'm like, girl, what is wrong with you today?
One of my best
You are
ways,
awful.
one of my best ways to de-stress has been self-care through friends as well, which is just the talking. Just being around girl energy.
That's actually a really valuable point because what I learned through self-care is that women release stress by talking. I didn't know that. The more we talk, the more we offload the stress. So that's why we feel so much better when we talk to our friends or our parents about our problems.
Someone needs to tell my partner that.
So what do you do? So there's restlessness, there's frustration. What do you do?
I go to anxiety. I completely... That anxiety for me shows up as a vacantness.
What does that mean?
Well, I just am vacant. I don't have anything to say or to contribute. It's just in my body, and I.
Is it like numb?
Yeah, I'm numb.
Kind of go numb and icky and
So like you withdraw from everyone.
Totally.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of my beautiful friends say we always know when Nat's not okay because she's not checking in with people.
Yeah, because you're very social. You're very social.
They go, something's not right, haven't heard from her for a week, I'm going to check in with her. How are you? And I'm like, I'm really shit.
And can I ask, what does that feel like when you are withdrawing from everyone and you're just isolating yourself and you're just by yourself? What does that feel like?
I feel comfortable in that. And that's an awful feeling.
That's the dangerous bit.
Isn't that interesting that it's comfortable and you recognise that as a bit gross?
I actually find it part of the healing. It's like, okay, I've got to get to that. And then I've got to go, okay, like a meerkat, pop my head up and go, oh, there's a world out there. But it only happens very short periods of time.
Because when you isolate, although people know, okay, that's a bit unusual for you, do they tend to come in and say, hey Nat, how you going?
Yes, you all do. And
thanks.
Okay, thanks, Apple. No, but that's good to know. That's really good to know because you consider women who don't have a support network and what that must be like for them if they don't have people to come and go, are you okay? Are you okay? So what advice would you have for a woman who is not self-caring, she is run down and she knows it, but she has no choice but to continue on looking after the household or going to work and she's at that point of burnout? What advice would you give to her to take the first step?
I think choose one thing. Just choose one thing, whether it be just drink 3 litres of water a day or whether it take 10 minutes out to meditate in the morning or the evening. Just choose one thing and do it every day because consistency is what creates self-care routine.
Yeah, right. Okay. What about you, Saran?
I think the first thing would be in order for you to be the best to everyone that you love and you give to, fill yourself up. You cannot pour from an empty teapot.
Preach.
And I never knew, I was like, how can I look after myself?
Yes.
It feels selfish.
Yes.
So that's what I had to learn, was that those moments are a moment of selfishness for you to be the best for everyone else.
Yes.
So whatever that is, do that.
I love that. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
I heard a saying once, everything that's in the cup is mine. Everything that comes out of the cup is yours.
For everyone else.
Your cup has to be overflowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. What about you, Dee?
I think try a lot of different things, you know, like there's a lot of traditional self-care stuff out there, you know, and if you just kind of listen to all the different people around you and ask all the different people around you what they do, just try them all on like a bunch of different hats. See which one fits the nicest and most comfortably and be prepared for it to change over time, you know?
Yes. I think my only advice would be stop moving. Stop moving. You can't hear anything, you can't see anything, you can't feel anything if you're constantly moving. Just stop moving, even for 5 minutes. Sit and stare into space. It seems counterintuitive. What would you get from that? But I promise it works, especially for mums.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.